Please give me a moment as I go live on Facebook. Be right there with you. Hi Facebook, good afternoon everyone. Sami Abu Saad here. I hope your weekend is off to a great start. In today's video, I am going to be reviewing the US equities market. We'll talk about the SPY, the Qs, the diamonds, the IWM, and we'll talk about also some swing ideas for next week, bullish and bearish. But before I do that, I'd like to invite you to check out the links in the description of the video, some helpful links. And if you like the video, find benefit in it, please be sure to hit the like button. That helps me out a lot. Lastly, I have to share this standard required disclaimer with you to let you know that trading is risky and that whatever we discuss is for educational purposes only. Okay, without further ado, let's go ahead and dig in. First, the market, the all important market. Don't care if you look at the SPY, the Qs, or the IWM. I don't know why it's taking so long for my charts to load up. Oops, my platform is acting up. Let's take a look. Wow, that took a while. Don't care if you look at the SPY, the Qs, or the diamonds. They all look the same. I usually don't look at the diamonds as much because it's not really representative of the entire industry. It's just 30 companies. So I like to use the SPY or the SPY or the QQQ, which obviously are the tracking ETFs for the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ 100. They look identical. What looks completely different is the Russell 2000, the IWM, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But let's just go ahead and look at the SPY. I told you last week that this kind of a trend is almost impossible to predict the top on it. I said we do sometimes break it, definitely, but it's really hard to predict when it might top out. And of course, we had news last week, and that's when we had the Fed cut rates, the FOMC meeting on Wednesday. Then the president, actually on Thursday, the market completely reversed. The red bar was at the high up here when Trump tweeted about China, the trade war with China, and the market was up 2%, the Qs. The SPY was up, I think, 1.5%, but the Qs was actually up 2% and ended the day down almost 1%. It was an extremely bearish day in the market. It appears I'm having an issue with my platform, so it's taken a long time to get those charts to load up. I have no idea why, but so yesterday the bias was all out bearish, and now we have 3 big red bars in a row in the Qs in all the markets. And we do have, I picked 187.15 as the target yesterday on the mic in the strategic day trader room. We went through it and I said target 2 would be 185. We didn't really get to 185. I wasn't expecting to get to 185 yesterday, but that's kind of the next support area. If you're looking for a support for a place for the market to bounce off of, that would be the next support area, 185 in the Qs. But let's take a look at the weekly chart. The problem is I'm having it, okay, it loaded up quickly. So we got the biggest red bar all year, basically, last week. But look where we're at, the rising 20 period moving average on the weekly time frame. The same in the SPY and the diamonds, the DIA. Okay, so now what I would look for is I would wait for that attempt by the bulls to take the market back up, right? I would wait for some reaction, basically. Does that make sense? So wait for some reaction, and then based on the reaction or the lack of reaction or how big of a reaction we get, that will tell us where the market is headed to or how weak or strong the market is. Imagine if next week we get this kind of a move. We're not going to, very unlikely, but imagine if we get this kind of a bar next week. Then what would your bias be? What should your bias be going forward? All out bullish. All out bullish. Does that make sense? But what if next week we actually all we get is like a blip, a narrow range bar or something like this? Then that sets up a 1, 2, 3. That would set up a 1, 2, 3 short right here. Yeah, and a retest of the prior low, which I don't think we're going to retest all the way to 170, but that would set up the potential for another leg down, another drop. Okay, we do teach this pattern. I teach this pattern as a buy setup pattern, a T3 live buy setup, with the target being the prior pivot high. So somewhere here. Usually after exceeding it, we do get a rollover, right? We come in a little bit as people look to take profit, and then eventually the trend usually wins out, meaning that's an uptrend. We usually eventually continues higher. The size of the bar is indicative otherwise. I mean, is indicative of, and that this is not, that might not happen exactly. Does that make sense? That we're probably not going to get that big of a reaction, and that this was definitely a short-term, medium-term top in the market. So again, just one more time, when you have a buy setup pattern, which is a pullback to the rising 20, and then you get that pop right back up, right? The target area for that pattern is the area of the prior pivot high, so somewhere here. We often exceed it by a little bit and then come in after that. That's why we say it takes target here, okay? Often roll over a little bit, and then eventually the trend, this uptrend, continues usually higher. But so what I'm gonna say here is eventually we should continue higher, but based on the size of the red bar, I don't think we're gonna go right back up. Okay, I think we're probably gonna see a very mild reaction, but the right way to do it, the professional way to do it, is to wait for the reaction and see what kind of reaction we get. I am predicting that this was a short-term to medium-term top in the market. That's my prediction. But again, the right thing to do, the more professional thing to do, is to not make any predictions just yet and wait to get the reaction, and then based on how strong or weak of a reaction we get, we'll be able to determine whether the market is still okay long-term higher, or is showing too much weakness and perhaps lower. Okay, so that's my take on the market. All right, I hope that makes sense. Everything I say should make sense, right? We may not agree on everything I say, right? But everything I say should be sensible, should make common sense. All right, so hopefully that is the case. With regards to swing ideas for next week, I got a few bullish ideas. I'm probably gonna do another video on gold and the FANG stocks, some other interesting stocks like Tesla, which has a beautiful weekly sell setup, Nvidia, Baba. So tune in the next few minutes. But let me show you some swing ideas for next week. The problem with these ideas, like the ZTS, I love the ZTS. It's reporting on Tuesday, so why bother getting in it if it's gonna report on Tuesday? I'll look at playing it as an earnings play, perhaps. That's a breakout, right? Looks gorgeous, but it's reporting on Tuesday, so I'm not gonna get it. FE is another breakout, right? But I like the ZTS more. It has a lot more momentum. FE is a utility stock. APPS. Show me a stock that's stronger than the APPS right now. I mean, look at this rocket, right? Look at this APPS. Beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous. But also, I think reporting on Tuesday when I checked. So, or Monday after the close or something like this. So it doesn't make sense to really get in only to have to get out the next day. So I'm not planning on taking any of these longs. Then I have these, this LKSD, which is like quasi climactic, not really. maybe breaks the trend and pops for a couple days. It's a penny stock. Don't like it that much. TWOU, which was I think my biggest win this quarter, this earnings season so far, almost $20,000 from it on that gap down as an earnings play. It's possible to play the hourly chart breakout here. It's not really a breakout, but what do you call this pattern? A sell setup failure or a breakout? And let me change the scaling real quick. I don't like to have logarithmic scaling on smaller time frames. I like to use logarithmic scaling for larger time frames. So there's the LKSD, TWOU. There's more, and then there's also gold stocks that I would like to talk about in a separate video because I took my time talking about the market. Shorts, much better, but even the shorts are not great, tell you the truth. ANAB, I talked about in last week's video, just triggered yesterday, but I would, I didn't get it because it was a a big drop, multi-bar drop on the hourly chart to the entry, like a $3 drop minimum, or $4 drop. So I'm looking for this for a 1, 2, 3 to play short, or some kind of a base breakdown, because I love the monthly chart on ANAB. All right, so I like that a lot. There is another one that looks like it. I guess the Groupon, really the Groupon doesn't look like it, but also a monthly breakdown. Beautiful. Oh, looks like a disaster is about to happen in Groupon land. Looks lower to 215, right? To 215. So ANAB, Groupon, more like long-term plays. And then back to the daily time frame. We have CBay, which is already an open play for me, but I'm looking to add to it. Looks beautiful. This is very similar to the BCRX, which is also an open play for me. BCRX. All right, so CBay, BCRX, both look lower still. We have a couple of 1, 2, 3 patterns. What's a 1, 2, 3? A 1, 2, 3 pattern is when a stock breaks under the support, like so, out of a base, and it doesn't just keep going. It actually gives you a doji bar, which allows us, which is beautiful because it allows us to play a short under it. Right here, stop right there. Now you might say, well, no, the entry was on something like this. The entry was right here. Okay, great. Did you get it? If you didn't, which I didn't, now I have it has another entry. Does that make sense? So that's what the 1, 2, 3 is. It gives us the chance to get in on a stock that we pretty much already missed on the initial entry. Does that make sense? So CHS and TLRD, both apparel companies, have 1, 2, 3 setups on the daily chart. All right, Groupon we talked about on the monthly. RVLV is doing a breakdown. It's very sloppy. Reminds me a little bit of the WRK. Let me show you, which was a nice sell setup last week, or at the beginning of this week, I guess, this previous week. So RVLV, new stock, the work is a technology stock, but RVLV is also another recent IPO that looks to be in trouble a little bit. Then we have 3 oil stocks that have 1, 2, 3 patterns. So that's why I separated them from the rest of the watch list, because they're oil and they all look about the same. So I wouldn't play all 3. I'd just pick one. If you're gonna do if you want to take any of the oil stocks short. ERF, WLL, and OAS. There are other ones that I like, such as I think CHK is definitely in big trouble. It looks like it's going to 0. So those all look lower, but it doesn't have as good of a setup as these 3. All right. So those are some short ideas. I picked 4 plays for Monday. If you're in this SST program, Strategic Swing Trader program, I picked 4 plays for Monday. 1 is a cryptocurrency. 1 is a gold play, a play on gold, and 2 equity stocks. 2 stocks, right? So check them out if you want to log on to your account, or just wait for the newsletter to go out on Monday morning at 8 a.m. All right. With that said, I want to say thanks so much for tuning in again, and I hope you have a great rest of the weekend. If you have any questions, reach out to T3 customer service. Be sure to check out the links that I dropped in the description. You can, if you're a day trader, you want to day trade with me for the next 30 days, and if you've never been part of the room, you can get in for 49 bucks. Okay, that's like free almost. If you're a swing trader, you perhaps saw the video that I just did on Thursday, I think, where I made $31,000, 31,415. So if you're a swing trader and you like to play earnings, join me in that program as well. Whatever it is, be sure to check out the links, and if any questions, reach out. All right. With that said, again, I want to say have a great rest of the weekend, and we'll talk again next time. I'll go ahead and do another video on the FANG stocks as well as some other interesting stocks that I'd like to go over with you, but this video is already getting a little too long, so I'll do it in a separate video. Thanks so much again, and happy trading.